Hey guys, my name is Darren and today I have a crazy story for you. This week's giveaway is for these stylish headphones. To enter, just comment and subscribe. Enjoy the video. The fourth encounter wasn't bad. The cop was polite. You see, when I got my license and started driving to work, I was taking back roads and going really slow. I was going down this country road around 5 a.m. and this road had two three-way stops on top of each other. They were at least 20 yards or less from each other. Also, the speed limit was 20 on that road. I would do 15 on that road. Slowly crawl up to the stop sign, stop completely for only a second, and slowly roll on by. An actual nice cop that was hiding in the bushes with his motorcycle pulled me over. He explained that everyone must stop completely at a stop sign. Wait 5 seconds, and then carry on. He stated that waiting less than 5 seconds, even if you completely stop, and driving on through, is considered running the stop sign. He was polite and gave me a written warning. Few months later, I was driving home from work at night. This was at 9 p.m. A police car in front of me and just an average jerk behind me. We're coming to a four-way stop sign. Police did not slow down nor stop. Instead they sped up, probably past the speed limit, and ran through the stop sign. I stopped completely, took about 5 seconds to make sure it was safe, and drove on by. The jerk behind me was honking their horn, riding my tail, and went through the stop sign. This jerk was wiggling with evil and being impatient. Few minutes down the road and I notice a police vehicle start to speed towards me. I and the jerk behind me pulled over. I thought he was going to fly by in an emergency. He pulls behind my vehicle at high speed. His car barely kissed the rear of mine. This cop leaps out of his vehicle, runs up to mine in less than a second, pounding on my window. I pass him my license and registration, then ask what I have done. He looks at my license and says, "Is this address correct?" I informed him that I have recently moved since getting that license and the new address is in the back. He asked if I called the RMV to get this updated. I replied that the RMV told me to place a sticker on the back with the new address because they do not update licenses. He first accused me of lying and then stated that as soon as someone moves to a new location, they must get a new license with that address. By the way, this cop was young, like early 20s, and had a very rude, unprofessional attitude. He went back to his vehicle and brought me a ticket for $120 for running the stop sign because he saw that I received a warning a few months back from another cop. He said at high speed and in less than a minute, I can go online or RMV to pay it and mail it in with this envelope that he gave me to appeal it. Then he said that he doesn't care what I do with it. He quickly ran back to his vehicle and started driving down the road at high speed. I did not get a chance to ask any questions nor talk with him. I was going to pay it and say fine. First, all my friends and family demanded that I appeal it since I did nothing wrong and that it was wrong of him to do. So I started the appeal process. Second, I don't think dashcam exists yet. But I started taking my small camera that could record up to an hour and setting it up in the front of my car like a dash cam. Except, I would keep it hidden so people couldn't see it. 2 months later I got the court date. When it was the final day for court, I went in with a suit and tie. My goal was to plead not guilty, tell my story, and hope for the best. Well, the cop did not show. The court called the cop's police station and the chief answered. Supposedly, the cop was dead. Not sure of the story, but rumors stated that the cop was killed by someone he was after. Some criminal or something was lucky enough to take him out. Without the cop, the judge heard my case and appealed the ticket. I am the type that will feel bad and sad when someone dies, but I was wiggling out of joy thinking how lucky this was. Hey guys, let me know in the comments what you're thinking about this story. Lazy teacher equals LT. My boyfriend equals BF. Fellow classmate equals FCM. In our sophomore year of high school, me and my BF had history classes but right across from each other. My teacher was pretty chill and I was okay in that class. I'm bad at history. However, my BF's teacher was the opposite. He would always tell me that she was lazy, useless, unprofessional, and that she basically didn't care that she was a teacher, and that the only time she cared about her job and talking to students was to either dress code them for the dumbest details or to just belittle them in front of their face. My BF is really good at history and it was a surprise that he was always failing her class. He told me that every time someone needed help or asked about their grades, she would ignore them or tell them solve it on your own. This went on for the entire year. My BF and many other students had to stay after school to attempt to get their grades up and even went to South school. Many parents and students complained and reported her to the administration, but our school is the type of school to handle it not too well. Every time someone would report her, they would basically just say go fuck yourself and handle that on your own. Naturally, many people would give up and just deal with crappy grades. Many kids would try to switch out of her class, but the school's counselors would either help or shove the students off and make them keep the class. My BF and everyone that had her class absolutely despised her and hated her with good reasons. It was even to a point that I even hated her because she would treat every student she came across like that. Well, one day my BF was stressed and mad because of a conversation he had with her. It went something like this. BF, why am I failing this class? LT, because I don't care about my job. BF, well, me and other kids need to pass this class for our credit. LT, that's not my problem. FCM, but that's not fair. This is our grades and credits on the line. LT, life's not fair, kid. FCM, why are you even a teacher if you don't care? LT, cause it pays and it's easy to not do crap. After that the teacher walks off. My BF and FCM are just pissed and confused and they just talk about her and try to help each other with their grades. Students have had similar conversations like this with her. Well, fast forward to the end of the year. The month before we left, a parent demanded an investigation into this teacher by the school administration or else she would pull her kid out of that school. This was a big deal to our school because our school gets money for every kid that's there. And losing a kid means losing money. And the counselors talked to kids about grades and they found out that everyone that had LT class was failing. The counselors obviously brought this up to the administration's attention. After this, the administration did start an investigation. They called students up in the office one by one to discuss the teacher and their grades. Then when they called up my BF, they discussed everything they had to do, but my BF had also informed them of her dress coding kids for no reason, how she does not care for her job, and how she talks down to them and makes them feel like crap or dumb. They also discussed the conversation they had with FCM. After they were done, they called up the hero to the office and talked to him. He came back and found out FCM was a straight A student and has always been since freshman year. The office saw this and found it strange that every kid was failing her class even in the rest of her class periods. So this continued until every student had been called up. The last week of school came and the administration came into the class to call her out to the hallway. She went into the hallway and got chewed out. They called her out on everything she did to the kids, and later on I heard that teachers even made reports on her for not doing her job properly and creating a toxic education environment for the students. Keep in mind, everyone in the class could hear them talking to her in the grand final words, "You're fired." I remember my BF telling me that everyone grinned from ear to ear when justice was served. The last thing they dealt with was when she went back in the room to collect her things. Students were laughing and making comments like, "Will you help us with our grades now? Where are you going? Did you learn your lesson?" I think she cares about her job now. What job? It was, I guess, cruel, but I say it was well deserved. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to drop a like. So I was raised in a fundamental Muslim household, Salafi Islam, my entire life, and it wasn't until my early 22s that I was able to escape the clutches of that religion. My upbringing was quite restrictive. I was forced to wear hijab at the age of 8. Really, I was manipulated into asking for it, and that was held against me for over a decade. I was also forced to attend Duxi, which is essential Sun religious classes where you forced to memorize the Quran in Arabic, not my native tongue BTW, and if you faltered or made too many mistakes you would be beaten by a stick. You'd also be hit if you giggled or laughed in class, so basically I was beaten all the time, and if I told my mom, she would inevitably take the side of the teacher and beat me herself at the end of it. Because I was born a girl, a lot of my childhood was restricted. I wasn't able to wear pants or go out with friends to the movies or do anything really outside of the home. With the exception of school, my parents weren't complete monsters. I was also told that I was effectively lesser because of my gender and that my only purpose was to be a good daughter and inevitable wife. Any disobedience was strictly dealt with, first with physical beatings but eventually with harsh words and emotional abuse. Even things like riding a bike or swimming were restricted, which sucked as I was very athletic growing up. Inevitably, in my teens I rebelled hard. The catalyst was that I was in honors courses in HS and had great grades, but I was struggling in math. 85% plus average in all my courses, but sadly only a 73% in math. And my mother promised that I could have my first ever birthday party. Sweet 16 seconds were super trendy when I went to school, and growing up it was harem to celebrate birthdays, so I never had any presents or parties or even a HBD, so at the time this felt like a hill worth dying over. If I could get my math grade high enough. I was about 2% shy of the grade my parents wanted me to make. So instead of a party, I was allowed to obtain my learner's permit with no driver's training or opportunity to learn on their car, so the license was effectively useless. At that point I realized that my family would always move the goalposts, and that asking for permission would get me nowhere. I had an older brother who did terribly in school, and he would never get punished but would rather be celebrated whenever he would do even the smallest thing right. If he got a most improved award, we would go out to celebrate, but if I had only English, humanities awards, my mother would be disappointed that I didn't get better awards in math, sciences, and just sigh and wish that my more successful classmates were her kids instead. Despite having a summer job, I was never allowed to buy my own clothes. I was never allowed to go out with friends to the movies or do anything innocent, so I decided I would stop caring to ask, and would just do them. That culminated in my family sending me to their country of origin after discovering that I had drank alcohol when I was 17. I was essentially tricked and held prisoner for several months until I was able to contact the Canadian embassy, who rescued me and brought me back home. I felt guilty for leaving them, and since I was still a teen with little to no prospects, I ended up moving back in to complete my final year of HS. They all held this over my head and made me beg for forgiveness. Unfortunately, at the time I believed I was completely in the wrong, so I did just that. Fast forward a year later, I was attending a local university, met my now husband, and moved out with him by 20. They were okay with this because he was also from a Muslim background despite not being raised in a religious household at all. I truly believe that I wouldn't have gotten married so young if I didn't have such a religious family, and whilst I am still very much in love and in a happy marriage ... Could have gone far worse and I could have trapped myself in an abusive relationship. Would never recommend my future children to marry so young, as not everyone's story ends up as happily as mine did. By the time I hit 23, I had lived away from home for 3 years and had slowly been cutting my family out of my life. I would start visiting them without hijab or a long skirt and would take months between visits and calls despite living in the same city. By the time I was 25, I was completely out of the religion of Islam and honestly quite bitter and angry for the years I wasted worshipping a deity who hated women, the LGBTQ+ community, and basically anyone who wasn't a true Muslim. So I refused to keep in contact with my family, even going as far as to move, but did not change my number. I felt bad for cutting off all members of my family, as I was honestly not strong enough for the confrontations and the manipulations, and figured that a full cutoff was best. Sadly, this meant my own siblings were cut off as well. I attempted at 27 to get back in touch with my older brother, but he was angry and felt that I abandoned him, so he had some really cruel words to say, so I decided to stop trying. Another year or so has gone by and I messed up by picking up the phone the other day after several missed calls from a new number. I have a rule to always pick up if the same number calls back more than once, in the event that someone I know or care about might be in trouble. It was one of my uncles who wanted to reopen our relationship. This uncle was one that was a bit of a kindred spirit and felt more human in a sense. He wasn't as religious as the rest of them and understood how strict our family was. He mentioned how my parents are aging and that they are incredibly sad to not be in contact with me, and that I was always the favorite. IDK, why I'm being called the favorite now, because I know for a fact that my older brother was given more freedom and less responsibility growing up. But I cannot help but feel so guilty, since they are getting older and there is so much economic uncertainty in Canada at the moment. I'm struggling to decide whether to continue estrangement, knowing that my parents are sad and want to see me again. My uncle says that I'll be haunted by this decision later on in life if I do not reconcile with them now. But it's hard to want reconciliation with people who I know for a fact haven't changed. Islam is really a poison and it ruined our relationship. If they weren't so religious, seriously more religious than even their own parents were to them, then perhaps we could have moved on, but I'm pregnant now. Nobody knows in my life apart from my doctor, best friend and husband, and don't want them to hurt my daughter like how they hurt them. Not the idiot. Did your family have a tradition of women taking in their aging relatives? Is that why you're the favorite now? I don't know a thing here, but in my family a lot of the time the girls end up taking care of their parents even if the boy was and remained the favorite. I don't know, it could be legit and they are sad now that they are older. It just doesn't seem likely to me. Whatever you do is the right choice for you. Just protect yourself from advice from one person pleasers to another. Not the idiot. Your parents need someone to care for them, possibly physically and financially. So now they come back and try to lure you back in. Be very wary of this. I would suggest you gray rock for a bit. I bet they'll come out with it soon enough. Hey guys, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe.